made a little bit of a start on this next one just to speed the process up a bit. And this design here, I'm doing in some florist chicken wire. So that's sort of in this decorative wire, which is quite nice to see through an openware container. But I've used some of the copper mesh. And this basically is what we use now instead of floral faux. Any church flower arrangers here? Well, shame on you all. A few hands being forced up like that. Well, churches now are moving away from using floral foam. You know the green stuff that we used to stick all our flowers in? Well, it's a one-use plastic, that. So I sort of really try not to use it unless I'm absolutely desperate. So you can use this instead, and it's brilliant. Now, if you've tried to arrange flowers in chicken wire before and you've struggled, it's probably because you've got a really thick, weighted chicken wire from, you know, a DIY shop, or you've been to Borley's in Dinnington and you've got a bit from there. And it's all right for keeping your chickens in, but it's not great for putting your flowers in because it's too rigid. And when you try and shape it to go into a container, you compact it too much and it all condenses down. So get some of this stuff. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's a copper wire that you just use time and time again. So if I pull this out, you'll see what I've done here. So can you see, I shape the chicken wire to the shape of the vase, and then it just sits into there, like so. So dead easy to do that. So you can just very easily fix it into a goblet or a container or a pedestal. Whenever I'm doing this, I feel like I want to do the Olympic march. I feel like I'm the torch bearer. Oh, sports day. I didn't like sports day at school. I was never sporty me at all. I was far happier in a garden. But I was quite a good runner. I was quite quick at running, which is always handy when sort of kids, you know, sort of was calling your names and you had to run quite quick. So yeah, I was quite good at running. So they always made me do the running race at school. And I hated it. I used to get really sort of et up before sports day because I'm not really a competitive type of person at all. And it was horrible. And my dad used to say, you make sure you win. And no pressure there at all. But I liked sack race better. Sack race was fun, wasn't it? Because everybody just sort of ran and had a good time, didn't they? And fell about in it, which was so lovely. But school days were sort of different, weren't they? Can you all remember your school days? Yeah. Very different times, weren't they? My lovely cousin who sat on the front row here, who's helping me tonight, you know, she was saying, because she went to school here in Hartle, and you know, they would come in here for carol concerts at Christmas time and, you know, do things in the churches, which were really, really lovely. And my own church was St James's Church in Anston. And forgive me for sounding a heathen here, but my family didn't attend church, so that, you know, we weren't church goers. But I was on the church flower rota. And I was on the church flower rota from the age of 12. And it was a lady called Janet, who I don't think Janet's here tonight, but I often see Janet at flower shows. She rocks up. And she always says in a very, very loud voice, it's down to me where you are, because I'm the one who got you going with flowers in church. And she was quite true, she did. And I would do 2 months a year at St James's Church, and I would do the pedestals at the front of the church. And the pedestals, I think, I'm not sure what they look like really, but I thought they looked quite nice. And the compliment that the vicar always used to say was, I always know when it's that young lad who's done the flowers because his pedestals are like nobody else's. Now, I'm not sure if that was a positive or a negative, but St James's Church, probably very similar to All Hallows here at Hartle, is sandstone, primarily, a lot of it. And I had the dubious claim to fame that an ivy leaf was imprinted on the sandstone floor for quite a long time where I'd stood on it and it had made a mark on the floor. But I used to love going in that church. And we did a springtime month, which was quite nice, but then I also did a winter month. Now, winter month was scary because it was quite eerie being, you know, quite young on your own there, and you had to go and collect the church key. And it was kept, the church key. Now, I can't quite remember the name of the road, but it ran down alongside the back of the church, and you had to go and find the key, and you had to put your hands on top of a porch to find it where it was hidden. And I can always picture this porch because it was full of dead flies and, you know, spiders. It never got cleaned up there. And then eventually you found this ginormous key. And you would go along to church, and then I would, you know, do the flower arrangement in there. And I used to think, oh, it's quite eerie in here, you know, because you sort of, when you're a kid, you think about all the dead people, don't you, underneath and everything. And it was a bit spooky. And I would go home and I'd say to my mum, oh, it's a bit weird in that church on your own. And my mum always used to say the same thing. Nothing will hurt you in a church. Dead people won't do anything to you. And you think how times have changed now. You know, we had tough love, didn't we, really? You just got on with it in there. But sometimes my granddad used to come and help me. And we used to get flowers from Dinnington Market. So you had £5 to do a pedestal. And in all the, probably 10 years or so, however long I did the church flowers, it still remained at £5. Now, if there was anybody who did church flowers, I bet it's gone up to £7.50 now, hasn't it? But you were, you had a very tight budget to rustle your flowers together. But the little vestry room, which is sort of similar to the room at the back of the church here at Harthill, is where all the flower arranging equipment was kept. And in those days, they never chucked anything out. So all this one big cupboard was full of all flower foam, full of old Oasis. And it had been there for, I don't know, for absolutely centuries. And the lady who was in charge of it, as I mentioned, was called Janet. But then Janet did move on and another lady took over. I can't remember her name. And she was a bit of a tyrant, really. And she used to give you 2 blocks of floral foam to last you a month. And she used to say, you can't have any more. If you want any more, you'll have to buy your own. And I used to think, well, how do you make 2 last a month? And she'd say, well, you turn it one way one week, you turn it another way another week, then you turn it on its top and you turn it on its bottom. Well, by the time you got to week 4, it was all ready to drop to pieces. So, poor old vicar there, he probably had the Leaning Tower of Pisa next to him at that stage. Well, into here, I've just added in again some gorgeous local grown dahlias. We've got some fantastic clematis, the little clematis pirouette, which is that little purple flower in here. Got some campanula, which is just gorgeous in that pink with those bell-shaped flowers. And I'm adding in a little bit of perovskia, which is known as the Russian sage, which is just from the garden, this blue stuff here. So often if you were doing flowers in church, you might perhaps do 2 of these on top of an altar. Possibly, yeah. So this was a style that you would maybe do in altar vases. Well, at Christmas at St James's Church in Anston, when I did the flowers were donated. And they were donated by the farm that I mentioned, Elliot's Farm. And they used to donate 2 boxes of white chrysanthemum blooms. 2 huge big boxes of them. And they were enormous things, and we'll be looking at some chrysanthemum blooms in a little while. And you had to do a pedestal with those, and it wasn't easy to do because they looked like big footballs really going into it. And they were all there, ready for the church Christmas services. And they were quite hard to arrange, and I was always given the job of doing those at Christmas. But you know what? Doing those flowers, and I often drive past St James's now and I'm going to see my father, I always think, really, I learnt a lot over that period of how to make flowers look good on quite a tight budget. And being a proud Yorkshireman, I continue to do so. But also, I learnt something, really, I got told off because I would sometimes go and cut foliage from the churchyard. And I can remember letting slip to my mum that I'd been in the churchyard and cut some laurel. Oh, and I got such a telling off. It's like, you never take anything from a church. And then now you watch films and things, don't you? And there's people robbing flowers off graves, isn't there? And giving them to people as a bouquet. And I think that would really be the ultimate sin. But one thing I don't like, I don't know for anybody, I don't like artificial flowers on the churchyard. It doesn't quite look right, does it, really? But give me fresh any day, and that's the little Olympic stuff there.